Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, my guest is Ralph with Integrity Wealth, and he's going to share with us all of the amazing work that he is doing and how he just deals with all of the stress that comes with doing these amazing things. Hi, Ralph. How are you?
I'm well, Latasha. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being here today. I truly appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Could can you just share with the audience? I know you have Integrity Wealth, and I believe a podcast called Power of Integrity, which sounds amazing, and all the other amazing things that you were doing, and why you decided to do those.
Absolutely. So I have been a financial advisor, I think 39 years this month. I celebrate entering the profession. I believe I was
Congratulations.
licensed shortly thereafter, but it was September when I got hired into this profession to figure it out. So I'm halfway through. I love what I do. I'm hoping that I
That is
have the
great.
blessing to continue it for a long, long time. With our clients, we refer to it as a shared journey, and that journey has been a marvelous run of fun. Yes, there's been challenges along the way, but as time has gone on, it's been more fun and it's been more rewarding, I think, for our clients as well as for us. And that's just not financially, that's psychologically and emotionally very rewarding. We have a saying with our clients that we hope we can face the future with anticipation and not with apprehension. That's one of our shared journey goals, is to make sure that we're doing things that help them check off their bucket list and live a fulfilling life as best they can. So Integrity Wealth Management is the firm today. It's 21 years young. I practiced with a partnership prior to that, but enough about that practice. Today, recently, I had written a book called Integrity at Work, emphasizing the principle of integrity and how it plays a role in our lives. I also have a podcast, as you referred to, The Power of Integrity, in which Orange County leaders are coming on that podcast and talking about how integrity has played a role in the success of their business or the success of their relationships, and how the lack of integrity can be corrosive and corruptive. And so that has been a wonderful journey with those individuals in discussing integrity itself.
Yeah, that sounds like so much fun. I love that work and what it stands for. So what made you decide to want to do this? Like, doing a podcast and the integrity thing, like where did that come from?
Yeah, so Natasha, I give a lot of credit to life coaches. Sometimes the the external input that we receive that we couldn't otherwise have gathered ourselves. So for me, 20 something years ago, maybe I was going through that midlife crisis. I knew something was missing. I was having a tough time with two important things, and I don't usually reveal this publicly. I certainly have revealed it privately, but here we are publicly. I'll speak about it. I'm an expressive, by the way, as I digress. And you know what an expressive is? That's someone who knows exactly what they're going to say right after they said it. So I know exactly what I'm going to say right after I have said what I'm going to say now. So, diary of the brain, putting it out there. In my life, in my early 40s, I was having trouble with two things, believe it or not. As a financial advisor, I was saying, geez, I'm making a good living, but I don't have a lot to show for it. There's some disconnect here happening. And then my closest relationship with my partner, my life partner, was not doing well. And after 3 separate therapists, counselors, all of which were dismissed, I said to my then spouse, I've got to find a solution. Something's not working in my life. These are two important areas. They're the closest things to me, my closest relationship, and the business of money and my own ability to accumulate money. So I went on a path. I found someone who said getting to the root cause, and he shined a light on authenticity and integrity about things and how one needs to conduct themselves in all instances, not just on the outside as appearance and image, but truly on the inside. And so with that work, I did a lot of introspection, a lot of clearing up, and realized that the fabric or the thread that's woven in integrity weaves into a fabric of authenticity the longer we stay integral and integral with ourselves and with others.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. I know how hard it can be sometimes to share things that we haven't shared publicly before. So thank you. Um, so how did that, so you found like that was, what was happening. You got that taken care of. How did you deal with it? Like, so you found a life coach.
Hmm.
And so you start putting these things into place, which I'm sure was extremely stressful. And anxiety was probably overwhelming. How did you deal with that part?
You hit on a perfect topic. It was not simple because I realized that there were areas in which I was not being fully clear, fully earnest, fully truthful with myself. And as a result, I wasn't fully clear, earnest, and truthful with others. It wasn't like I was lying. It just was I was pretending in some ways. And some of us call that the imposter syndrome. Many people feel that imposter syndrome because they're really not doing what's authentically from the inside out. And we're thinking, well, to succeed is somewhat following examples from the outside and never giving ourselves the courage and the wings to take lift with what's coming from the inside. And so that metamorphosis, because that was a struggle to be able to own everything I was doing, saying, and it was impactful because now I found myself in truly authentic conversations, not superficial conversations. I was deeply revealing who I was, regardless of the outcome, because I wanted to know me better. And I think that's the quest we're all on, is getting to know ourselves better while being able to share and have it reflected back with the people we're talking to, like you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, when you found this and you were able to process and move with that and having conversations with people, did you then find yourself surrounded by different people?
Hmm. It's interesting because there's a practical aspect, and then to me, there's also an etheric or a cosmic aspect to a lot of this. I mean, life energy is was Nikolai Tesla. Boy, I digress a lot. Nikolai Tesla, who said, if you're going to study the secrets of the universe, you better study vibration, energy, and frequency. And so those that were in my orbit were vibrating similarly to me prior. Some of them were struggling like me to get out of that pretend mode and into their authentic mode. And for those that wanted to level up like that to authenticity, they stayed in my circle. I didn't discard anybody, but folks fell off. I became less interesting, or I became offensive, or I became like weird. And all that was honoring what was coming from the inside out. So yes, it did repel. Good marketing, by the way, does these two things anyhow. Good marketing attracts the right people to your business, and it repels the wrong people. Well, our energy attracts the people simpatico to that energy, and it repels people that are not simpatico. Some are well above us in their vibrational level, and some are below us in their vibrational level. But those that are simpatico to ours will stick and stay around. We have glancing blows with folks from all different, random vibrational levels. And I like to use vibrational levels. People, I think, understand that. But it's practical too. It's not just this etheric woo-woo stuff. It's really practical. And you can see folks that are at your energy level, if you want to use the word energy as opposed to, or frequency. People don't use frequencies about themselves, but each of us is vibrating at some level of frequency right now. And we're both, and as quantum physicists tell us, we're both particle and wave simultaneously. So we are vibrating and pulsating in and out of what may be the physical reality of a particle.
Yes, yes. So that leads me to another question that I have.
Sure.
I hear a lot of people say, well, that's normal or that's not normal. what do you think normal is?
Wow. Well, I think each of us are sacred vessels. Um, I think each of us are component parts of the fabric of the oneness that we all are. This life coach had um, 3 points that he left me with. Well, he told me to arrive with, he used his 4 knuckles. He said, HOME. If you want to get home, you need to be honest, open, motivated, and emotional. Okay, cool. I'm here. I'm a student. I'm going to learn. And as elusive as some of his thoughts were at first, they became very clear to me after my own journey and my quest. But he said there's 3 precepts. One, you have to understand in life everything is self-responsibly created. Number 2, you have to have a sense of non-attachment. You cannot be invested in the outcome of everything and anything. If you are so riveted to the outcome, you're probably going to miss some of the other information and input that might guide you differently. And so that would allow you to live more in a flow state if you weren't so committed to the end goal. And that seems tough for us in the West. The third thing he said is you have to remember we're all one. This is one species. This is one organism. The whole entirety of the universe is one thing. You're a component part of it. And if you see yourself as an individuation of that wholeness, you'll remember that your job is to treat others in ways that many of our teachers have taught us. The golden rule, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Why? Because as we sow, so also shall we reap. As we judge, so also shall we be judged. So if we want to level up, we've got to clarify how we're conducting ourselves, how we're thinking about others. So hypocrisy is really an inside game. If we find ourselves doing one thing and thinking another thing, we're only choosing to pull up short of our authentic self. Like if we're not comfortable conducting ourselves 24/7 in any particular way, we become an imposter. Like what you live on the inside, you should live on the outside. That's an integral or integral part of authenticity and integrity to me.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Um, so
Hope I answered your question.
no, you did. So I appreciate that. Have you had others who are no longer in your circle, like, um, reach out and talk with you and try to see like where you are at and maybe how you got there? Or are they just like, no, we just don't interact anymore?
That's a great question. I have to reflect on that a second. At first, some of those that were in my orbit who I thought did not understand this messaging that I was learning, what I realized was that they were more naturally authentic to themselves than I ever was. And so despite them not having this lofty, heady approach to life, which I'm guilty of, but I love that. You and I have talked about it. I love the notion of thinking about thinking. I love mental gymnastics. I love being up there in the etheric and trying to think things through, feel things through as well. I do think that the rules of life are knowable, and they're not so obvious at first, because as the Tao Te Ching says, what is isn't, and what isn't is. And as quantum physicists will say, never underestimate the importance of nonsense, because at a quantum level, things are nonsensical. And so what we're thinking is and how things work. But back to your raw question and your straight question, which was about those in my orbit. I learned to appreciate those, even though they were not able to espouse or articulate the same notions. I realized that they were being genuine to themselves. And for me, that was good enough. So many stayed around. Those that were on the peripheral, that weren't deep, close friends, I don't have as many non-deep, close friends. I don't have a lot of acquaintances. Everyone that gets into my orbit, I don't know. I'm like a crab. I cling on and we get close.
I understand that because I am that same way, but there's not many there. So, um, now where you are in life and you look back on, your journey, does some of the things that took place in your life and some parts of your journey, like, does that make sense to where you are now?
Of course, yeah. If we were to plot the highlights or the lowlights, especially the lowlights, right? Fortunately, today it's more highlights than lowlights. The unexamined life, according to Socrates, was not worth living or is not worth living. And the unexplored life, if we don't go back and explore our lives, we might find ourselves in repetitive patterns, right?
Mhm.
But as we go back and we check in, and whether it's through journaling, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through introspection, contemplation, whatever modality that one uses to 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 do self-discovery, and I think self-discovery is critically important. It's critically important for pragmatic and practical reasons. It's critically important to get in touch with oneself and to know why we're here. Or
Very
what
much
we're
so.
going to do while we're here, which might be more important than why we're here. Um, Going back and seeing how the dots connect, and geez, did I really want to meander that kind of pathway? Because a lot of us have got bruised and bumped along the way. And remember, if we self-responsibly created that, we probably did that because we were unconscious about it and not in tune with what we were doing that was creating or setting up the circumstances for some of those clumsier times in our lives. Certainly while we were conscious, when we're younger and unconscious of these things, I'm not sure what to make of that. But when we're a little bit older and we're now consciously making decisions, or we're making decisions and we're responsible for ourselves, if we can examine what it was that went into creating those lowlights, not the highlights. The highlights are great to also commend ourselves, but what were those lowlights, and what was the combination? What preceded that, and what led to that? And how do I change my thinking about that, and how do I change my actions about that? And lo and behold, my world changes as a result of my thinking and my actions.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so before this journey, were you able to look back and realize that there were some things that you were doing in your daily life because of what you had experienced or maybe because of what you had been through? Um, and to you was an okay thing, right? Like that was just, I don't want to say normal, but that's how to explain it, just like a normal thing, right? But now that you're here, you realize, okay, maybe that was not how that was supposed to go.
Yeah, may I may I maybe groom that word normal to acceptable? Like
Acceptable.
it was an acceptable thing. I don't know what normal necessarily is, but I do know what I thought was acceptable in many instances no longer acceptable today for me. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And
Yeah.
so
Yep.
yes, I because I changed my yardstick or my barometer as to what was acceptable, which could be exchanged for normal, what was permissible and acceptable then, some of those things stayed. But a lot of them went under closer scrutiny and examination. I thought, well, geez, if I'm self-responsibly creating my own reality and we're all one, how would I conduct myself? Well, I got to level up. I got to level up because the consequences of my action today are going to wash up on the shore of my life tomorrow or my tomorrow at some point.
Mhm.
And so what I'm doing in every moment, every second, if it isn't baked in faith, hope, and love, chances are I'm going to get crude, rough, and clumsy.
Yeah. That is exactly right. Yes. Um, what about like your actions with other individuals? Like I can say, I'll use me as an example. I know as a mom, there are things that I would do that I thought was protecting my children because I wanted them to not ever have to experience other things, right? So did you find yourself doing things like that and then realize you were doing that because of things that had happened to you?
Oh, for sure. And Natasha, this is one of those things that I wish I could help our audiences, your audience, the audience that listens to me on my podcast, that I can help them understand that we are often baked in fear and motivated to prevent fears of outcomes. And we don't understand that when we're trying to prevent fears, we're actually generating more fear. It's hard at first to escape that. But there's going to come a time where I think, as we are in the age of Aquarius, and you're going to find I'm not a foo-foo kind of guy. I don't hold hands, go around the fire 3 times this way, 3 times that way, kumbaya, light a bunch of incense, and sit by a bunch of altars. My prayer is every moment, every second, every interaction. That's how I pray all day, as I've been called to. Some of this stuff is biblical, but it's scientifically sound. At the base, and Latasha, thank you for letting me be unbridled in all my conversation today.
No, I love it.
At the base, the physicists would study what is the primordial goop from which we're all made. And they first concluded, well, it's the molecule. Well, they said, no, inside the molecule are atoms. And then they studied a little closer inside the atoms. Well, we got neutrons, protons, electrons. We got all sorts of stuff that's going on inside an atom. And then they started to find these other things called quants and quarks. And these were like particles of sorts. And the quantum physicists today have concluded, at least most of them are of the school, that it has nothing to do with particles and it has everything to do with consciousness. That we are the manufactured result of consciousness. Thought. In the beginning was the Word. And it has been made flesh and real. Some of this stuff is spooky, how accurate it was. Because from a scientific point of view, they're proving some of the things that have been written in the ancient text. And remember, what is isn't, and what isn't is, as the Tao Te Ching says. And to do without doing, and it all gets done, that's through consciousness. It's through who we become. That's the interesting part, is who we're becoming along the way. And we're really only becoming more of our authentic self while we're hopefully, envision this. The boat that has all the barnacles underneath, it's slowed by those barnacles. But if you take one of those barnacles off at a time and you remove that resistance, all of a sudden you start planing through the water a lot more simply and flow comes.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if I answered that question again.
No, you did. You did. So what about manifesting? Are you, is that something that you think is a real thing? Or is it more of like, no, it's, your actions and what you're doing and how you're going with it?
Oh, there are practical aspects to manifesting. You want to dig a hole, you got to get a shovel and start digging, right? And you manifested a hole. So it's a very practical aspect. Yes. So the interesting part is going from manifesting in the physical form to realizing we can manifest from our consciousness. Now, I'm not talking about the secret and the law of attraction, although the law of attraction exists. It does exist. But what this consciousness is calling us to is to not only attract the things that some people do through a lot of affirmations and thought conditioners and, restating mantras over and over and over again. Yes, you condition your brain. But we also have to realize that what's arriving on our doorstep today is a reflection of what we manufactured and manifested from what's going on deep within us. My life coach would say the subconscious directs all the traffic. You want to see what's going on in your subconscious? Watch what's arriving at your doorstep, especially when it shows up serendipitously, synchronistically, or way out of character. Like, where did that come? Black cat. Wait, pay attention. Lesson coming.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whoa, that phone call that comes out of the blue, that knock on the door, that random encounter. And remember, there is nothing random. There are no accidents. There are no coincidences. I believe that. So do we manifest? Absolutely. Do we want to see what we're already manifesting? watch what's arriving. What's washing up on our shore, whether it's good or bad, is of our own creation. And if we believe that, then all of a sudden we start to curate different thinking and different consciousness. We start to become, I don't want to use that woke term, but we become awakened that we have a hand in this. We have a hand in it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And if we had a hand in it, what would we do to create our tomorrows?
Yeah.
Would we be as clumsy, as rough, and as like unexamined? No, I think we would pay attention. We'd pay far closer attention. We would stay conscious. And I think that's what we were called to do.
Yeah. So, to those that are listening who might be going through something, and are having a hard time getting over it or seeing the other side of it, like what would you say to them?
There's hope. There's a path forward. It's never too late. It's never too bleak. It could feel that way. Lord knows, I can remember it being bleak, it being dark, and not seeing a path forward. I think you have an incredible energy, Latasha, for realizing that to tell people they're not alone. And they're not. Like there are folks who are willing to help. There are folks who are willing to listen. There are folks who are willing to care. And I think you're one of them who's willing to be there. And that reaching out to someone as close as their friend, telling the truth of how they're hurting, and seeing the reaction from others, realizing that they actually do have authentic friends and authentic family members. So
Yes.
Hope is critical. To have faith, to have hope, and to have love.
I was just going to ask you about faith. So, did you ever find yourself not having faith?
It changed. This is one of those radical departures from the norm or the social mores. It changed from having a faith from an external being and internalizing that faith. I realized that, as I said about my life coach, I came, I saw, I met the enemy, and the enemy was me. And so I had to go about clearing up my stinking thinking in order to create a life of more bliss and more nirvana. That doesn't mean I walk through perfectly. It doesn't mean I'm exonerated from doing stupid stuff or having stupid stuff happen, but I'm more consciously aware. And so I get an opportunity to curate a more wonderful, impactful life for myself and for those around me. That part I enjoy today. But I can tell you there were times where it was dark, where I was uninformed. And so my thoughts were not clear. They were not pure. They were not supportive. I thought the world was a mess, and my world was a mess. And I think that we're on this planet learning to unlearn the fact that the world is not a mess, that the world does have rules, if we only understand and embrace them, that we're self-generating our own realities.
Yes. Not pushing any religion at all. I just know for me, when I was having a hard time and when I was struggling with things, maybe things that I didn't understand or whatnot, I know the Bible was something that I went to. Is there, something that you went to try to find the hope or the guidance that you were looking for?
Yeah. So when faced with this notion, and by the way, the vaccination took very quickly with this life coach, because what I realized in his presence is that what he had, I wanted. He had a depth of peace and command of himself and presence that I felt I did not have. And at 40 years of age, I was still a wandering generality trying to figure life out, as many of us are. And I'm still trying to figure out more things at higher levels. But when faced with this notion, because I trusted this person implicitly, after listening to them, I could not find any holes in their philosophy and their position and thesis about being self-responsibly creating our world. I went and I looked at all the ancient texts, the Old Testament, the New Testament. I looked at the Torah. I read Kabbalah. I read the Bhagavad Gita. I opened the Quran. I read the Tao Te Ching. I don't know if I'm going to miss anything. I read the Zen koans. And I could start to see that the lens through which he was peering, these others who were sounding mythical in their ways and metaphysical in their concepts, he was actually distilling it with one concept of it's self-responsible. And so I leaned on all of them, but I realized that each of them was trying to say what he was teaching in one simple nutshell. And so this is not a religious show, so I don't want to dive into it, and I certainly don't want to piss off audience members who have devout positions. It's best to have a devout position. I honor those positions that everybody has, and I hope that others, as a result, will honor the position that I have. I don't mean to refute anybody's. I just realized that there is one common denominator amongst all those. There's one thread that weaves through all of that, and that we're self-responsibly creating our worlds.
No, I mean, I think I can speak for my audience that we, it's genuine. We like it. That's what we want to hear. We want to see other insights. We want to know how other people are dealing with things and what help them get through things. So maybe, there's someone out there that feels like you feel. So they're looking to see how did you get through that, So I appreciate you sharing that. So do you have any other wonderful words that you would love to share with the audience before the show ends?
Stay patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Find help with others. Circle or encircle your orbit with people you trust and love. Those that you don't trust, those that you don't love, those that you feel don't have high levels of authenticity, even higher levels of integrity. Allow them to go about their worlds in their way, but shake the dust from your feet and walk away from those things. Because if somebody is clumsy, rough, and less than authentic, and you're in their orbit, the landmines that are going off for them will impact you. That is not to be so callous as to discard others, but you probably need to love them from a distance unless invited in with authenticity and integrity. Otherwise, shame on any of us for getting involved in worlds that are less than integral and less than authentic, and then wonder why we're wallowing in some blowback and fallout.
Yeah, that is something not in those words, but that is definitely what I try to tell people. Like we gotta, treat people how we want to be treated, and you can't go around like not being genuine and authentic and nice, but expect that in return. Like that's just not, it's not how it goes. So thank you for being on the same page, right there with me. But I feel like throughout this conversation, there's so much of what you shared, which is how I feel. So I like that. How can people reach you if maybe, they think that they want to maybe come on the show or talk with you or have you on their show or your book? How can they?
Yeah, the book, which speaks to the principle of integrity, but it's mostly an expose about our company, Integrity Wealth Management. So if you want to be bored about financial aspects, then you could purchase the book. It's available on Amazon, other fine booksellers. It's in 3 forms: hardback, paperback, and audio today. So I think there might even be an ebook available, electronic book available for next to nothing, if not free.
Oh,
So that's one of the ways to learn a little bit more about Ralph Adamo. The podcast, which is The Power of Integrity, we launched that this summer, so the episodes are just coming live or just getting released on the YouTube channel. The Power of Integrity. The next way to get in touch is on LinkedIn, Ralph G. or Gerard Adamo. You should be able to find me, Ralph Adamo, without any problem on LinkedIn. Reach out. Happy to speak with folks. I believe, as I sow, shall also shall I reap. And if I can be a positive contributor to your world, chances are this universe will settle the score, and someone else, maybe not you directly, but something else, will also be a positive contributor to my world. So imagine a world, as John Lennon said, imagine all the people, right? Getting along in harmony. I imagine that. I think it's possible. I think if each of us took the step to realize that we're able to contribute positively to others, and that every interaction, regardless of how it arrives, if we can stare it back down with love, as we were called to by one of the great rock stars of Christianity, Jesus said, love your persecutor, right? Embrace your enemy. Turn the other cheek. He's saying that that's not to be self-sacrificing in my mind. He's saying that what washed up on your shore came by design, and if you want to extinguish that hatred and that pain, you cannot extinguish it with more hatred and more pain. You extinguish it by using your aspect of embracing it and loving it and realizing. Imagine if each of us in this world was to respond with something that was hatred, with some random act of love back, it would stop. In fact, if both parties knew that, we probably wouldn't have acts of violence, acts of pain, and acts of hatred. If each of us knew that we were sowing what we're reaping and we're reaping what we're sowing, we'd be real careful. So we live in this is one of those departing things. We live in a time-space continuum that separates the action and the thought from the result. If we were slapped in the face immediately after thinking something that was with hatred, we'd stop thinking that way.
Yeah.
The problem is it doesn't show up as a slap in the face, and it doesn't show up anywhere in time that connects the dots and says, oh, crap, that's why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened because we're wallowing at baser energies. And if we want to level up, we level up through the one energy, the one unifying energy of, there's more, there's peace, there's joy, but there's love and I don't mean a foo-foo love. In the English language, I know we were going to conclude, in the English language, there's only one word for love, L-O-V-E. In the Greek, there's 3. Sure, it's Greek, could be Latin, but I'm pretty sure it's Greek. There's philos, there is eros, and there's agape, if I pronounce that properly. Philos is like Philadelphia, brotherly love. It's a different kind of sense of love. It's brotherly love. Eros is the erotic love. And agape is the love for the greater being and the greater oneness. We don't have that. We don't break it down like that. So this is not about eros. This is more about philos. And it's more about understanding that we're all connected and we're all some of that same fabric of oneness that we are. And so the love for that great oneness. Hope that helped.
And yeah, it definitely does. And I love your heart. I really do. Like you, just talking with you, your energy, everything that you're saying, like it's, I love it. And you definitely seem to be an incredible person. So thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So yeah, I hope the audience has got a lot.
I have one parting way for those that are on a path, not just to reduce struggle, because I know some of your audience is about the challenges and the harshness of some of the things they've gone through and are going through. But for those that are also transitioning, aspiring to where this sort of conversation about leveling up, I want to leave this message that, we run into some people, and I appreciate you complimenting me. All this is the refinement of thinking and actions over the last 20 something years when the light bulb went off. I want to remind our audience that everyone has the capacity to have sage-like attributes, that have this wisdom. They just need the right perspective. And so if we can go to work on that, it's not easy sometimes. For some, it'll come like that. But for most of us, it's a challenge because we are pushing water uphill in many ways until the light bulb goes off. This is an antithesis. We are absolutely certain. You and I think, talked off camera before about neurolinguistics programming and the fact that we all have deletions, assumptions, and generalizations. We are absolutely certain as individuals that the forces, like life happens to us, that construct of that sentence, shit happens or crap happens, is putting the control on the outside. We're externalizing the locus of control. The origin and the source is external. It looks like that. It looks like the culprit is showing up disconnected to the victim. And the Patanjali yogi had said, don't ever underestimate the fact that the perpetrator and the perpetrated are somehow connected. There's a dance, and it's harsh because at first it feels like we're saying the victim's responsible. But we're all connected in some way. And I'd like to get to a place where we don't have anybody who thinks they have to perpetrate. Mm-hmm. Because they know that perpetration doesn't lead to anything that creates oneness. And the perpetrator lays down their arms and gets everything they need to manifest in their lives by manifesting it properly, not by taking from others and coveting others. Imagine a world like that. But everybody is a sage given the right perspective, and everybody has a chance to level up.
Yes, and I think, also for people who are struggling, I think it's more of just making sure you find the right support, you find the right people to lean on, because I know if you have the wrong individuals and you're leaning on them, you're never going to get out of that space. You're never going to move forward, and you're never going to get to a better area and a happier place for yourself, because you're just not going to know how to do that. So I think just as you had said to me earlier, people do things out of fear, right? Like, or they respond out of fear with certain things. And I think for some people who are, in a hard spot, whether it's, like in a relationship that they can't get out of, or, things that happened to them in the past and they're trying to move forward from it, or, drugs, alcohol, whatever the case might be, like they're afraid of what it might look like if they step out. Like, what is that reality going to be? And so
it's like two fears, the fear to be within and the fear of the unknown.
Right. And so I think that unfortunately sometimes it's easier to stay, like it's easier to stay there because that's what they know, and that's like what they're comfortable with, and they think that that's their reality from moving forward, like that's how it's going to be. And the people that are around them only see them in that world, and so it's not easy for the people around them to try to support them to get them out of that. So
yeah, you're hitting on a lot of interesting things. I don't know if you got to wrap up the show, but
no, I have another show at 1:30, so we're good.
Okay, so when we're in others' orbits, sooner or later we begin to oscillate, vibrate, and have a frequency that's simpatico. And that becomes an entanglement. An entanglement theory in quantum physics tells us how the energies get connected, the particles get connected. They actually know, regardless of the distance, they actually know what the other one's doing. In other words, if an electron is spinning one way, clockwise, and its peer or partner is spinning clockwise, when the one turns and begins to spin counterclockwise, the other one immediately, simultaneously spins counterclockwise. We are entangled with those that we immerse ourselves with. There's an energetic bond that happens. And that bond is difficult sometimes to separate because that's what we know. And, we use these practical psychological theories about, we become comfortable in it. Well, there's scientific reasons we become comfortable in it because it's very difficult to escape that bond and to break that bond. And then there is that fear of like an unknown. I don't know where I'm going, what energy I'm going to go into. And so breaking the energy we're in is very difficult and we get trapped. And I can remember being asked to break some of the bonds that I was bound to in the life coaching. And then there were some that I knew I had to break myself, but there were some the coach pointed out and said, hey, this is not authentic. And that's what's not built on solid ground shall crumble.
Oh, yes. Yes. Wow. If nobody takes anything else away from this talk, please take what he just said away. Because that is, yeah. I feel like so many people look at individuals and want to form a relationship or be in some type of connection or whatever with people for their own doing. Nothing to do with being authentic, genuine, and to actually build a relationship. It's for whatever their own thing is that they think they might be able to take from someone. And then the other individual may not be aware. So they're, being authentic and genuine, thinking this, hey, we're supposed to be, friends or whatever. But it's not gonna hold form because it didn't come together from both parties genuine.
Yeah, if it goes back to that part about being authentic in the relationship and making sure that those around us are authentic. See, most of us are trying to fill up our reservoir that's drained with some sort of energetic force in order to feel better.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Whatever that energetic force is, while it might be stimulants from the outside, or it might be whatever, affection, intimacy. And intimacy is probably a bad word because intimacy implies something authentic, should imply things that are authentic. So a more corrupt word would be just the sex addict that's trying to get fulfillment through this aspect. But life, when we arrive authentically or involved authentically, the same actions, the same intimacy will be more fulfilling.
Yes.
When one is just trying to grab and take from, neither really comes away with anything. It's really a synergistic, symbiotic. 1 and 1 can make 3. Where when one's taking, it makes 0 usually.
Yeah.
Neither feels completed by that.
No. And it's just a mess. And then, yeah. But yes, if you go and you realize that this is not the good environment, this is not how I'm going to grow, this is not how I'm going to get to a better place because I don't like this place that I'm at. It is hard. It's scary for people. And then if they don't know anyone that's not in that area, like, where are they going to go to find it? Right. And I know
that's where you have to step out, almost like Indiana Jones, and hope that the step is there through that faith, that hope, and that love. But you got to step first for the step to form underneath your foot.
Yes, that is. Yeah.
It's almost like it's invisible. It's invisible, but if you step out into your own future, it will arrive.
It does. And I love how a life coach helped you. Like, I love that because I love how I'm able to help my clients. And so just seeing someone who has used a life coach and where you are in life, like, I love that. I love that for you. So thank you for sharing that you had.
Yeah. And what was really interesting, Latasha, is that the life coach turned the spotlight on me, and he didn't say this, but it reminds me of one of those biblical sayings, is physician, heal thyself. So today I am my own life coach. And each of us, as we learn it, maybe it'll put you out of business. But imagine what will happen if each person becomes their own internal coach.
Right.
And each person is curating their own thinking and purifying it and clarifying it and becoming more authentic and more integral. Yeah, they had put all life coaches out of business, but there'll be another business. There's more
I'm
than
going to
enough
come to you
wealth.
looking for that business. Okay.
Yes. There's more, and unfortunately there's more than enough pain and fear and suffering in this world that life coaching will go on for a long, 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 long time.
Yes, I hope so, and for the right reasons. I think me as a life coach, empowerment coach, like I believe that not only does my personal journey help, but also the educational factor and going back to school and doing all that, but combining that, right? Like I think had I not had my own personal journey and had I not been able to experience things for myself, then I wouldn't be able to share authentically and genuine how I went, like how I was able to work through it. So how can I tell someone else how to work through it? So
Right.
that's why with how I do things, I just like to make sure I combine both. Like I can share with you what did work for me, and this is probably how I would handle things, but let's talk about it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's one of the things I love about what I do. I get to just help others.
Yeah.
um,
You are doing good works.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So are you. So are you. And yeah, so again, I really just want to make sure the audience um, knows you and knows how to get in touch with either your podcast, but I know LinkedIn's a good one, and your book. I know you said there could be a free one. You said on
Yeah, if you go on Amazon, there's at least one. I don't know. I haven't looked lately. There's at least a 99-cent version. There might be a free version as a like ebook. For those who, let's say, one of your audience can't afford it, you send me a LinkedIn. I'll send you a complimentary copy. I'll autograph it for you as well, as if the autograph is all that meaningful. But I'll
see,
try to put
it's
some words
true.
of encouragement.
I love your heart. Yeah. So we'll talk backstage here in a second, but I really did enjoy talking with you, and I love
Likewise.
everything that you shared. It was very inspiring and gave, I hope the audience a way of looking at things. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. It's
Um,
an honor. It's a blessing.
and I definitely want to have you back on the show. So again, we'll talk about that later, but I definitely look forward to having you on the show again. And yes, until next time, everyone stay safe out there, and we'll see you and chat the next show.